Okay. Let me share this other screen in front of me so I'm not looking off to the side real quick. Okay.
All right. See your Slack.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. There'll be more people coming in, but today's event is on how to present yourself best. How to present your best digital self. I'd like to thank our sponsors for tonight's event. We have the Capital Factory. They sponsor our events. We've been a part of their organization for a while. They take care of anything related to our Zoom, to an office space if we need it, to hosting things live there. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to help and make the connection if anybody ever has questions. They're also a great way to get a hold of us if you're ever trying to get a hold of us. For today's event, we're going to have event starts at 7 o'clock. We usually start a little bit late because people tend to trickle in later. Presentation starts at 7:30, and just depending on how long that goes, we'll have Q&A afterwards. And then we have a hard stop at 9 o'clock. Today's speaker is, in fact, Simon Dodd. He's a friend of mine. He is the operations manager at Riverside Staffing. This is the link to his website, to their company. And I'm sure he'll share his LinkedIn account or information, and we can all friend him and get to know him a little bit better through LinkedIn as well. So thanks again for joining us, Simon. So, go ahead. So a little bit about Hispanic Hackers. Hispanic Hackers is a group of mostly software and hardware engineers of the Hispanic ethnicity. And our goal is mostly to showcase the knowledge and experience and build professional networks. If you're not Hispanic, that's totally okay. We really are just a group of people that want to get to know each other and be a part of our community. Some of our board include Eddie Reyes, who had an issue going on at Meta, and he is not able to join us today. Myself, James Lockwood, Laura Evans, who she's on the way to joining. She said that she's on the way home right now from work. Timothy Huang and Laura Oyas. If anybody's interested in helping out and being a part of the team, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to have anybody be a part of the team. Some of our goals include achieving the knowledge in the technology space. We typically host monthly events featuring topics in the software and hardware technologies. And we really have been focusing on developing career opportunities for our members. We're doing something a little bit different this year, where we have a planned out set of events to try to get people hired and get people in front of hiring managers and recruiters. So that's a thing. Next month, we do whiteboarding interview practice. We do opportunities where we connect people with companies. And really it's about supporting the diversity and inclusion and just being a welcoming space and a friendly face to people, and making a community around us. Anybody interested in getting involved, please feel free to let us know. You can get us on our Slack. You can get us at Meetup, getting a hold of us through Capital Factory. Lots of different ways to find us. You can get us on our website, HispanicHackers.com. We're always looking for new people to join and be a part of the team. The more the merrier at the end of the day. It's going to make it more fun and more enjoyable for other people. Before we get started, we like to take a quick photo. So I'm going to stop the screen share real quick. If everybody wants to share the screen, we'll do a quick screenshot. If you don't want to, you have to. Oh no, what happened? There it is.
There's Jonathan. All right, I'm just gonna snap a quick photo here, And feel free to turn off your camera if you don't want to. So we'll go in 3, 2, 1, and then another one. 3, 2, 1.
Perfect.
All right, cool. Thank you guys.
Okay. All right. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, we typically do in-person events more so during the summertime where we get an opportunity to, hang out with people. We'll go on a hike, we'll go for like a bike ride, we'll go paddleboarding, or we'll like grab coffee or something like that. So look forward to some events coming up in person as it warms up a little bit more here in town. Like I was saying before, we're doing something a little bit different this year. We're trying to do a set of events that lead to an opportunity for people to potentially get hired, or at the very least get interviews set up for them. So this month we're doing how to present yourself best digitally and be found online. Next month we're going to be doing a whiteboard and interview practice event where people will get an opportunity to do an interview or a whiteboard question with somebody, and get an opportunity to make that mistake in a safe space where it's okay if you mess up. We're here to help each other out. We're here to answer questions. This is going to be a practice event. It's a way to kind of see what that experience is like for people. I know that's where we met a lot of our board members in the past, at these events, and it's a good time. It's a good experience. And then in June, we're planning on doing a recruiting slash hiring manager event. Excuse me. And we're hoping that we can get a handful of recruiters or hiring managers set up to potentially, just get to know our members and, potentially set them up with some interviews, or at least first round interviews or something like that. It just kind of depends on what they're looking for and what we bring to the table. So that'll be the goal for June. I just look forward to hearing more information about that as it comes through. Like I said before, ways to get a hold of us. You can get a hold of us, or I need to update that. It's hispanichackers.com. That used to be our old website address. You can get a hold of us on through Slack. These QR codes work for our Slack and the meetup links. You can find us at meetup.com. We have a LinkedIn group, Facebook group, and an Instagram group. And then you can always get a hold of us through Capital Factory as well. They're really good about connecting and making sure we're able to get the communications back and forth with each other. So we typically right now do a social connection party. So if anybody's looking for work, this would be a great opportunity to talk about yourself, tell us what you're looking for. Also, if anybody's hiring, this is a great opportunity for that as well. I know right now where I'm at, I know at UT, they're always hiring. I can definitely share that link into our Slack for them. I know they're always looking for developers, marketing, content writers, you name it, like the whole everything. There's so many people they're always looking for. Let's go next, guys. Anybody else looking for work at the moment?
If you don't mind me intervening, yes. I am Jonathan Ramirez. Nice to meet you all. 26 years old. A year and a half almost into learning programming. So far, I've learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, on the verge of React. Have almost 10 years of experience of a professional. My fault. I'm sorry, guys. 10 years of experience professionally, but kind of hard to create a resume with nothing similar to that developer skill set. So, yeah.
No, I get that. That's my story too. I had no developer experience and I had to try to figure out how to make that. So I hear where you're coming from, man. I get that. All right. Well, that's it for today. Okay, so without further ado, we can start our feature presentation then. What I'll do is I'll stop the screen share. And oh, Jonathan, you're currently driving. That's totally okay, bud. Simon, if you'd like to go ahead and go first, I can. We can go ahead and get started. The feature presentation.
Hey guys. Yeah, thanks for the intro, James. So I guess to introduce myself, my name is Simon Dodd. I am originally English. I worked in the UK recruiting software engineers for about 10 years. Started off as a junior recruiter at a company called Oscar, moved my way up until I was managing recruitment team. They gave me an opportunity at one point to move to the US. They had at the time a recruitment team in Houston who they wanted to upskill into software engineering recruitment. So I moved out to Houston for a couple of years. Eventually decided to move to Austin because that's where, in my opinion, that's where all the tech jobs are. So moved over to Austin and spent the last 6 or 8 years recruiting software engineers in Austin. I formed Riverside Staffing, which is my company, along with a business partner of mine called Ryan, about 18 months ago, and we've been building it since then. So our business is focused on recruiting roles for SaaS companies. So that is a lot of software engineers, but that's also technical sales, that is design, that might include any kind of roles that you might have in a software company. And from the start, we've had it's kind of like a stated goal that we wanted to be a positive voice in DE&I guess. And so one of the things that we've been very focused on is making sure that we're helping the companies we work with to have the best practice in place. So when we introduce candidates to them, we are following DE&I best practices, but it doesn't matter because we're not making the decisions. So it doesn't matter if the companies are not. So we always try and work with them to make sure that that's something that continues through the chain, and so that the hires they make are the best possible hires, regardless of that person's background or who that person is. So that's been our stated goal from the start, and something we're having, in my opinion, quite a lot of success with. So far, a lot of our clients have been very happy with the work that we're doing, and we've been getting some great feedback. But yeah, that's me. That's Riverside. There's just 2 of us right now, but we're looking to grow. So if you know any recruiters who are looking for work, then let me know. And yeah, so I guess in order for me to talk to you about social media and what you should be putting in your social media and how you should present yourself online, I really need to start by talking to you about what it is that people are looking for, because hiring managers do have very specific things that they're looking for. And when they're looking at your social media, they are looking at it through that lens. They're not necessarily looking like, would I want to go and have a beer with this person? Although that might be one of the things that they're looking for. They're not necessarily looking for that as the most important thing. So obviously the technical skills go without saying. And Jonathan, obviously that's something that you're hoping to gain that skill set. But you need to be able to present the skills that you do have on social media. And I will try and talk about that a little bit. But to start with, they're looking for the technical skill set. But secondary to that, they're looking for certain soft skills. And one of the big things that I see being a problem for a lot of candidates is a perception that they might not be a great collaborator. So collaboration is a really important thing for most hiring managers. And the way they look for that is a little counterintuitive, I think. So the way I like to talk about it is that if one software engineer has an idea about how to tackle a problem, and another software engineer has a different idea about how to tackle that same problem, and I'm sure you guys know that's a scenario that comes up quite regularly. Collaboration is not just being able to like get on well and go to hang out at lunchtime with your colleagues. It's about being able to deal with a confrontation, and it shouldn't be a negative confrontation, but you've got one idea, you've got another idea, only one person can win out, right? So it's about being able to take criticism on your ideas a lot of the time. Like, hey, actually, this idea is better than your idea for this reason. Like, do you take offense to that? Or do you understand that, okay, cool, like, actually, you're right. That's a great idea. We should go with your idea, right? So a lot of the time they'll be looking out for any kind of indicator online that you might be confrontational, that you might not be good at dealing with criticism, maybe. And a lot of the time they'll be looking out to see if you have, a lot of people have certain technologies that they insist on working with, right? Now, most software companies have got a pretty broad, tech stack, and they might have some legacy stuff in there. They might have some really cool modern stuff in there. But the engineers will probably end up working on some stuff that they really enjoy and maybe on some stuff that's less exciting to them. So a lot of the time people will be looking online to see if you are showing very, very strong opinions like, oh, this framework is the only framework worth using. I have had people rejected from jobs because they've said in the interview that they hate Java or .NET or whatever language it is or whatever framework it is. Not that they'll ever use that language or framework, but because they might have similar issues with other things in the future. When if they hire that person, they don't necessarily know what technologies that person will always work on. So to circle back, when people are looking at your social media, a lot of the time they're looking for certain red flags. They're not necessarily looking out for how great a person you are or how much you've got in common, but are they going to find any particular red flags about your ability to collaborate or your ability to work on things that you might not enjoy working on all the time? So does that make sense? Any questions at all?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Definitely, it's not something I've ever thought about. I mean, I guess because I am newer to this industry, only being about 5 years now, which I guess is still kind of new in tech. I know I'm not maybe a huge fan of like Angular, but I can do it. I don't think I'd ever tell anybody no myself. I don't know. How about y'all? What do y'all think, Tim and Jonathan?
I myself am still learning Angular and React, so I could honestly say, whether or not the framework works well or not. I still have to get in there, but I'm not one of those people to bash on any other language that needs to be bashed on or whatever not needs to be bashed on. But my opinion is my opinion. That's what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I've worked with a couple languages now, and for me, I feel like I want to work more with like a certain ecosystem, like let's say JavaScript, and I would learn other things as the company needs them, but I'm kind of just looking towards like the languages I want to work with now, and kind of like specialize and get a lot better at it. And there's just some that I really don't enjoy at all, so I try not to find those either. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think that's the right way to go about your career. You should specialize. You should have certain areas of strength. You can't be good at everything forever. You know, the more you specialize, the more valuable your skill set is. But yeah, it's more the mindset. Like if they bring someone, if they were hiring and they think, oh well, if I bring this person in, and they're going to like refuse to work on something that we don't know we're going to have yet because it's in the future, because we decide that like that person needs to help us out on some legacy code that's not sexy, you know, or whatever it might be. So a lot of the time, they'll be looking and just being like, look, you know, companies almost always want to have you working on the things that you want to work on. But if you have to do things that you don't particularly like for a little bit of time, is that something that's going to be okay with you? You know, that's something that I've seen again and again and again when candidates have been rejected because they've said in the interview, I hate that framework. It sucks so much. It's the worst framework and it doesn't work. You should never use it. Well, the answer in most cases is there's probably a reason that framework is used. It's just not useful for you in the work that you've done, right? So people have to understand that it's about finding the right tool for the job, you know, the right language or framework for the solution. But yeah, if I was to rank the reasons that I have software engineers in particular get rejected, that's high up there on the list sometimes. And sometimes it's not even about, sometimes you just got to frame what you're saying in the right way, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, yeah, so I guess moving into the different social media platforms. So I guess to lump some of the social media together, you know, maybe Facebook and Instagram. I don't have a TikTok, but I probably put that in the same category. These are social media in that they are mostly for yourself. They're for your entertainment. They're for personal consumption with friends. They're not professional platforms, I guess. So to put those together, I feel like realistically, a hiring manager shouldn't necessarily be too worried about looking at those platforms. Those are for you. They're not really anything to do with your work. I would say if a hiring manager is looking at your Facebook or your Instagram, they're more looking for red flags. So are you posting offensive things? Are you I don't know, you're doing things that are really obviously not what they might expect you to be doing online. But beyond that, I really don't think that there's much you can do in those social media platforms that would help your job search. You might want to look at it and think, all right, let me read the things I've posted and see if there's anything that maybe I wouldn't want to share. But other than that, you know, I wouldn't worry too much about those platforms for a job search. If you are worried about it, it's easier to hide make your profile private than it is to like change them in any meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's kind of the social media site that's kind of traversing between personal and business, though, is an interesting one. Is Twitter. So I think with a Twitter account, you can either be just talking about your favorite sports teams or chatting to your buddies or sending memes to Elon Musk or whatever you want. And if anybody's wanted to read your Twitter, again, what are you writing anything in there that's clearly not very professional? In which case, do you feel like you should delete your tweets? Sorry. What was I saying? Yes. So with Twitter, obviously, you want to be making sure that there's nothing in there that would particularly stand out as red flags to a hiring manager. But if you are someone who uses your Twitter account commercially, so if you are talking about code or you're talking about design or marketing or whatever it is that your job is, Twitter can be a really good tool for promoting your ability and your skill set there. So if you are applying for a job that's maybe a little bit more specific, like let's say it was, education tech, if you might be saying some things about education tech, if you're telling the hiring manager, this is an area that interests me, and then you're writing about those things on Twitter, then they're kind of reinforcing that and saying, no, actually you are interested in this. You're not just saying it to me in an interview. So yeah, sometimes tweeting about relevant things can be helpful because it reinforces the things you might be saying to someone in an interview. And then I guess moving towards the other end of the scale, which is LinkedIn. And for me, LinkedIn's how you're going to get your job. LinkedIn is not it's not a part of the process. It's your anchor. It really is your way to get your foot in the door with a business. And if I can share my screen with you guys, I can start to show you how Twitter works behind the scenes. So let me share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, so you have LinkedIn, which is the account that everybody opens. It's the free account, and 99.9% of people have that account. And if you're a recruiter, then you can go and buy an add-on for LinkedIn, which is what I'm sharing with you here, LinkedIn Recruiter. And so LinkedIn Recruiter gives you a certain number of in-mails, so you can message people. It allows you to post jobs. So I can post a job here if I wanted to, and I can look at the ad responses. But the big thing here is the search tool. And so I place 99% of my jobs using LinkedIn Recruiter. I use the advanced search here. So I can click on this. And right now you've got all the different categories I can use to search for a person's LinkedIn profile. Okay, so I can search for job titles. JavaScript developer, if I wanted to. That can be, it gives me all these other options, but I can search on those things. I can search on geographical location. I can search on skills. So if I type in JavaScript, I can type in Node, whatever those skills might be, and you can search for them. So this is an interesting one. So the skills and assessments, if you're on LinkedIn, you have on your profile, these are your skills. Okay, so you've got people endorsing you for different skills. Do you guys use this at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So when people are endorsing you for, well, for you, it might be languages, technologies. When I'm searching the skills, it's actually searching this. So the more endorsements you have, the more ranked you are. Endorse each other, ask your friends to endorse you. Apparently I have 76 people endorse me for this, which I don't even know how that's happened, but it's effective. This works. And if you're asking people to endorse you, then you're just going to come up higher. When I type,
That's interesting. I did not know that. I
Yeah.
know people like endorse me for some things, but I didn't know that that's how this ranked. That's really good information.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. There are actually two ways of searching for skills. So if I search for JavaScript, React, Node, oh, that didn't work. And then maybe look for AWS, let's say. Yeah, I've got 9.7 million candidates so far, but so I can search using those assessments. But the other way I can do it is just a straight Boolean. And so if you've got keywords here, this is actually a Boolean field. So I can search JavaScript and Node and React and AWS. If I search for that, it gives me 230,000 because I've used an and search here. Whereas if you're using a skills and assessment, it's using an or search. And I can do all it's a full Boolean, so I can do ands and ors. I can do search for phrases. I can search for whatever. You can use an asterisk if I wanted to search for different suffixes for the same word. So if I type develop and then an asterisk, it would be developer, developed, developing, all those kind of things.
Nice.
The keyword search uses the skills and assessment section, but it also uses the actual body of your text. So your about section is more interesting for Boolean searches than it is for people actually reading it. People will read it, so start off by describing yourself, but include your tech stacks you want to work in, include keywords that you think are relevant, that you'd like to be searched for. That could be languages, that could be business domains, that could be SaaS, that could be FANG. If you want to work for a FANG, you want to come up in those searches, whatever it might be. If you're really interested in fintech, put fintech in there. People are searching on these things and they're finding resumes through that. So that's really important. And again, you can kind of reiterate in the bodies of your jobs. Always fill that out. Put the description of the role and follow up with the tech stack and the domain and the keywords as well. And do that for every job. Because again, you're just going to come up higher ranks in people's keyword searches. And so for me, I think that if I can give you just one tip today, that would be it.
I have a question. What about the assessments? When people do the assessments on LinkedIn, is that something that you look at as well? I know I've every once in a while I take an opportunity and I try to do an assessment on my account. But is that something that stands out at all that you notice?
Definitely helps with the ranking. I don't know the algorithm, but I would have thought that's going to really bump you up in the algorithm. I don't look at those things. If you've done an assessment or not, I don't look at it because not enough people have for it to really be a good barometer for me.
Okay.
That's not to say that a technical hiring manager won't, but I wouldn't have thought so because they're probably looking at your resume by that point. So you definitely do them. I'm not saying don't, but it's not something that I use to find candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, James, I was on another event too, and another recruiter had said it's so far down on the LinkedIn page that they might not even see it. So I guess it's good to do, like, if you want to try it, but I think Simon's pretty right compared to what I've heard the other places too.
Mm.
So other things that I think are important on the LinkedIn profile. Spotlight. Do you guys use this?
I don't think so.
What is that?
Never actually put the button on myself, but you can. You can set your status to looking for work.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. I think my profile says that.
okay, I was gonna Google it, but I mean you guys can look it up, I'm sure. Recruiters are spending $3 per in-mail to message people.
Wow.
It costs a fortune.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Let's do a quick search here. So let's think what kind of person am I looking for? Give me a profile that you want to hire for. Just made up scenario. Like what kind of do you want JavaScript developer? Do you want to do a UX designer? Okay, yeah, let's go with full stack. So I'm going to look at full stack engineers. So I want them to have the job title, right? That's reasonable. Let's just use Austin because then I am getting the numbers down a little bit. Let's look up keywords. So React and Node and AWS and whatever else. What do you think else I should look for? Anything?
SEO.
SEO. Cool. All right, I can look whether full time or contract. I can look at seniority. I don't typically do that. Interesting things. I can look up veterans. I can look up what degree you've got. I can look up whether they've got a computer science, computer science degree, for instance. I can look up people from big companies or little companies. There's all sorts of different ways of searching for people, but just for now, I'll keep it pretty straightforward. And I will do this search. So now I've got a list of, I think it's at 61 people, 62 people. Okay. So the most important thing I'm interested in here is if I message these people, if I don't get a response, then that costs me $3. If that person responds to me, I get a credit back, which means I can use another credit again later. So I'm really interested in people who've raised this little flag that says that they're looking for work. So this guy, Zachary, he is looking for work as a full stack developer. He's happy to do on-site, he's happy to do hybrid. Killian here, again, this is the types of jobs she's looking for, full stack. contract, internships, full-time, part-time. So you can see who's looking right now. It's so helpful. So I've got, sorry.
I said, oh, look, there's Tim.
Oh, here we go.
Hey, everybody. Actually, I'm turning on my profile right now too. And you can appear to everyone on LinkedIn or just to recruiters.
This is
Do you-
just to people with a LinkedIn recruiter account.
Okay. Do you have
So
any
it-
opinion on that, Simon? Open
Yes,
to everybody or?
Sorry, what was the question?
Sorry. Do you think it's better to do like open to all of LinkedIn or just keep it to recruiters or anything, any nuances with that?
If your boss doesn't know you're looking for work, then just do it to recruiters. That's pretty much the reason for that.
Gotcha. Thanks.
But yeah, look, so if I click on spotlights here, it will give me a list of people who are open to work. And almost every recruiter is filtering out people who are not open to work. So what I've got is a list of 22 people here. Now I'm gonna read each profile. Here we go. So you're top of the search here. Well, Tim, you're coming up top of the search. So you're doing something right. So I'm going to look at all of these profiles. I'm going to click into it. You've got a great summary here. You've got you've got all of the tech stack that you've worked with. You can see here it's even highlighting React, Node. The things that I'm searching for have been highlighted for me. So it really shows that the way you've set your profile up is working well. Again, you've included languages again in the different roles, and I can look at this and I can be like, all right, this was C#. I'm looking for a JavaScript developer, but you've done some JavaScript there. Okay, great. But then I'm just seeing all of this stuff highlighted, and I'm thinking, oh, great, SEO there. We've got all the right frameworks. So I'm immediately thinking, Tim's a yes. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to save him some projects, and so you'd get saved, and then I'd go through and look at everybody else in this list of 22. Everyone who I thought was a fit is going to get an email from me, and most of them will be, unless they are like drastically outside of the search and just got in there somehow. But I'll message those people. Now, do I then go and message the people who aren't looking for work? Maybe, but they're not looking for work. So the likelihood of them responding to me is pretty low. So then I'm spending, $3 a pop sending 60 messages out to people who aren't looking for work. So maybe I'm less interested in sending those messages out. So that's the way you'll get the in-mails. And hopefully that's gives you a bit of an idea about how to set your profile up to best hit the algorithm there. Let me have a look here. Okay. So you've put in there that you're a front-end developer, full stack developer, looking for full-time work. You want to work on site. Okay, great. Where was it? I think Killian here had so she kind of put a bit more, he put a bit more information in there. So like he's looking for somewhere that's 15 miles from his house. That's useful information for me. It's not going to make me find him or not find him, but might be worthwhile looking at adding in some of the extra stuff there as well. So yeah, any questions on LinkedIn, guys?
I got a question, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So I got a question that involves kind of filtering for the recruiter. It's pretty much asking. So let's say, for example, that like my scenario. I live in San Antonio, but I want to be when I'm good enough to be ranked at the top. I want to be open to be able to be looked at by recruiters in Austin. The difference between San Antonio and Austin as far as tech is drastic, as y'all know, as far as job placement and whatnot. So is there any way or formality to be able to be like filtered in the Austin area by recruiters instead of San Antonio, like from the employee's perspective?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, the way to do that is to change your location to Austin, so that your profile says you're in Austin rather than San Antonio. So in this search that I've done here, where I've specifically looked for people who are current, because you can change this, current or open to relocate as well. But I've specifically searched for people who are currently in Austin. So you're not going to come up in this search unless you change your location. It also does allow you you can change your status to open to relocate as well. So I could put that in there, and maybe I'll get some more people pop up. Let's have a look. So yeah, my search has gone from, what was it, 62 to 83. So I found another 11 people who are in different cities like Anaheim, California, but want to move to Austin. So I do find other people that way. Jonathan, are you looking for a relocation, or are you looking to just be on the radar of businesses who are in Austin?
Just to be on the radar. With family purposes, I got to stay close to where I'm at the moment. But just like to be on the radar, I mean, even if it's hybrid, I live in San Antonio. I don't mind driving once, twice, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But as far as the options are open to traveling as well.
Yeah, sure. So I would say the real best way is, like I say, just change your status to say that you are in Austin. But to be honest, these days, this is a search that I'm doing a lot less of. Most of the searches I'm doing at this time are, looking for people in the USA, because obviously there's so much remote opportunities that most of the searches that I'm doing, most of the businesses I'm working with are looking to hire fully remote people. I would say that you could set your status to open to relocate. But if I were you, Jonathan, just say you're in Austin on your profile, but maybe make a mention of it in the profile itself to say, I'm in San Antonio, but I'm willing to travel to Austin 3 times a week for 6 months or for forever or whatever it is. Just make that clear in your profile.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds reasonable. I mean, even if it means remote, that's the dream. Y'all were speaking about it earlier when I just got on. It's the flexibility that I'm looking for as well. So remote is a dream. If I need to, I'm willing to do what it takes to make sure the job is done. If it means traveling or whatever.
Yeah, I think that for someone, I think you were saying you're relatively early in your career, right? So I feel like there's definitely a lot of companies out there that are looking to hire fully remote. Maybe a little bit less so with people who are breaking into their career, and that's not a rule by any means. But I think there's some hiring managers that want to be able to be in the room with the developers that are early career, just to be able to have that osmosis of learning with them. So I think that the ability for you to be flexible and be open to travel into Austin to work with your team will open some opportunities out for you. But yeah, there's definitely fully remote roles too, and maybe you can snag one of those. So I'm just wondering if there's anything else I can show you on LinkedIn that might be useful.
I have a question, Simon.
Yeah.
I was looking at the titles of some of these candidates, and I noticed some of their titles are different, like U.S. citizen, looking for remote position, developer versus engineer.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on some of what should you put in the title to optimize it?
Developer, are you a developer or are you an engineer? Are you a software engineer? Are you a web developer? Like, there's no right answer there, unfortunately. If there was, I guess everyone would be using the same title. If you are looking for a full stack software engineer role using React and Node, for instance, then looks like this guy Boris seems to have got a pretty good handle on it. He's saying he's a full stack developer. He's using the right keywords. People will search for both. If I was recruiting for a full stack developer, I would search full stack and developer and software engineer and software developer and all of these different phrases to try and make sure that no one's slipping through the gaps. On the screen here, Nicole here, full stack software developer, perfectly acceptable. I wouldn't think much if you wrote developer or engineer. It wouldn't really matter to me at all.
Would having like U.S. citizen in the title, like that gentleman Boris, bump you up? And then would putting looking for remote bump you down?
I think that unfortunately there is a certain level of discrimination in the market. I don't think that it's necessary for you to put US citizen in your title. I think that this Boris may be reacting to some conversations that person's had where, how do I put this? There's a lot of people in the market who are on H-1B visas who are a lot of the time from India or China or other countries that have got similar agreements with the US. And those people are not usually able to be employed in a full-time position unless that company sponsors their visas. So a lot of the time, the bigger companies, your Facebooks, your IBMs, they can sponsor visas. A lot of the startups are not set up to sponsor visas. And so a lot of the people who have these H-1 visas are kind of precluded from working for them. And so I feel like Boris maybe has put that to kind of differentiate himself from a H-1 visa candidate who would not be able to be employed in a full-time role. The way those visas typically work is that you work for a consulting company who sponsors the visa in the US. So they'll come to the US to work for this consulting company, and then that consulting company will try and find contract work for that person. So they will be trying to find hourly rate contract work for them. And so yeah, I feel like Boris is just trying to say I'm looking for a full-time role. I am a US citizen, but yeah, he shouldn't have to put that, but that's the choice he's felt like he needed to make.
Okay, thank you.
I think that sometimes people who I've spoken to a lot of people who are American, born in the US, who have non-American or non-European sounding names, have also felt the need to put that into their profile as well. They shouldn't do, but they do. So yeah, Any other LinkedIn related questions or anything at all?
How do you feel about candidates that don't have images for their pictures? Is that something that kind of turns you off at all, or is that not a big deal? What do you think about that?
Not a big deal for me. That's a personal choice, I think. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me at all. I would if you were wondering whether you should have one or not, I would recommend putting a picture in. But yeah, it doesn't really make a difference. If I was looking at this candidate here, I would think, okay, cool. Like I'm looking at how much experience they've got. I'm looking at, you know, this. I'm not necessarily looking at that. But yeah, so I guess that the things that we've talked about here, the LinkedIn, the advanced search here is really about attracting that in-mail, you know, getting an in-mail from.
Did we lose Simon?
I think we lost Simon. I give him a second. Um, I give him a minute. Yeah.
He's probably just restarting, and I'll join back in a second.
Yeah. There you go.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hey guys, not sure what happened there. What did I miss?
No, nothing. You cut off, and that was the end of it.
Okay, what was the last? Let me jump straight back into it then. What was the last thing you heard me say?
You were talking about the images not being that important. Talking about it was more important about the information that they displayed. And then trying to get to get that in-mail by your information.
Yes. That first. Oh, we're losing you again.
We got you now.
Okay. Yeah, the two main ways that you're going to get in touch with a recruiter who's hiring for a role are going to be applying for jobs on LinkedIn, applying for jobs or receiving an email and reaching out to them. So yeah, hopefully that'll help your chances of getting that email from a recruiter. But yeah, one other thing that I would talk about that I think is pretty important, especially if you're a software engineer or a developer, whatever it is you decide to call them, is going to be some kind of GitHub or equivalent. James, you were talking about whether I'm interested in the assessments on Facebook. What would stand out a lot more would be a really prominently available link to a GitHub account or some equivalent. You know, I think that if you can look at what you're putting out there, especially if your job is to write code, like what is the code that you could show to someone at the drop of a hat? Is it 2 years old? Are you proud of what's up there? Is it clear? Is it concise? Is it cluttered? Is it properly, does it have like notes? Do your, the things you've put on GitHub have like a README? Do they have instructions for a software engineer? Like you're going to need this version of PHP and this version of Node to run it. Can you, like, what are you putting out there in the world it's like an artist's portfolio. It's the same thing, you know, as a software developer. I would really focus on GitHub or equivalents. If your role is more creative, or if your role, especially if it's maybe front-end development, you should also have some kind of just screenshots and a portfolio of visual work that you've produced, but you should also have the code that backs it up. So put that on your LinkedIn too, and try and, if you're proud of your GitHub, be, you know, sending it to everybody who talks to you. You know, if you have a conversation with a recruiter, you'd be like, hey, like, thanks for the call today. Like, I appreciated it, but here's my portfolio. Show that to the engineering manager. That can make a difference, especially when they might be thinking you don't seem to have got like every bit of experience we need. You're lacking in certain areas that we're looking for in this job. They might be on the fence about you, but they can really easily look at the code you've produced and decide whether they think it's the kind of code that they want in their team. So yeah, if I was to give an advice there, it would be just to look at what you're putting out there. It doesn't matter if it's work for previous customers, because a lot of the time, obviously, that's under NDAs and things like that. Do some challenges. Just find some challenges online. If you want to showcase your React experience, for instance, find some React challenge that you think will be fun to do, and do the challenge, and make sure it's up on your GitHub. Make sure it's, you know, well presented, and that it's well documented, well noted, and then try and get everybody you can to look at it if you're proud of it. Especially for software engineering jobs, I know the hiring managers always appreciate it when there's code available too. A lot of the time, clients will say to me, we have a tech test as part of our process. You know, we'll do an interview, and then we'll do a tech test. But if that person's got a GitHub I can look at, I won't bother doing the tech test. That saves you 6 hours sometimes. So
Very cool. Yeah, no, that makes sense. GitHub is very important to share with people. It becomes hard to share when you have to keep things private, but if you have that code, that's a great opportunity to showcase your skill set and show your work. I love how you called it your artist portfolio. I think that's a great way to look at it. It's a great way to think about that.
yeah, and you know, you're absolutely right that a big issue for a lot of the time is that you have to keep your work private. But yeah, if you can find the time to just do some challenges that are not owned by anybody, then that can just be the great way of showcasing yourself.
Right. Yeah.
I wrote down a few questions. I'm not sure if we're gonna move to another topic or not, and then if this is a good time.
I'm at the end of my little notes, so this is a great time.
All right, great. I wanted to circle back on the social media platforms, just more on Twitter, because I know maybe like Facebook and some of the other ones are more personal. I don't feel like managers go out of their way to find them, but Twitter seems to be big on tech, like you said. What's your take on like being active on Twitter? Because I kind of see like I have this kind of heads down approach where I find it distracting, because you end up on Twitter and you find some kind of post or thread and you're just like, let me just check that out, and you get lost in this rabbit hole, right? How does it look to recruiters or managers if they look at your Twitter or something like that?
Well, I don't think that not too many people are going to be making a call on whether they will hire you or not based on who you follow on Twitter. If you've chosen to make it a profile where you discuss tech and you discuss your work and you kind of build in public, then that could be really cool and that could be a good draw for some people. But I created a Twitter account because I wanted to follow venture capital firms and software companies because most of my companies are growing high growth startups. And so I was like, right, I'm going to make this account and I'm going to follow all these people. I'm going to like engage with them. And I've got about half of my Twitter is those kind of things, and the other half is the soccer team I support in England because it's way too distracting, and I find myself spending more time engaging with soccer than with my like stated intention of Twitter, and I ended up just not using it because again it's a huge distraction. People are not going to be. It's not going to be in anyone's major. It's not going to be a major point in anyone's decision making about whether they should hire you or whether they should talk to you in the first place. It can be a great tool, and if you were in some kind of like media type role, a marketing type role, and you can say, "Hey, I've got 100,000 followers," that's a big deal. If you're a software engineer and you're, podcasting and tweeting about JavaScript and you've got 100,000 followers, that's going to stand out to somebody. But if I was to hazard a guess, you probably don't. I wouldn't worry too much about it if you're engaging with non-work related things.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. Another question I wrote down. I guess it's kind of unique to me, but I'm trying to position myself for remote work. So I know that companies maybe they prefer candidates that are actually inside the US, but I'm trying to position myself from working from Mexico, for example. I would still have a US address and everything, but I really would like to work out of the country. Is there some tips or some way I can position myself that that would be appropriate? Because I know they have their standards and their needs with the company, but if you can offer any perspective,
The first thing that comes to mind there is that there are some pretty significant tax implications for hiring someone who is doing the work from Mexico. I don't know what those are. They're not necessarily implications for you. You file your taxes and that's your business. But for the business, it does make a big difference there. If you're working in Mexico, my guess is they would technically need to have a Mexican entity, and they would need to pay you. They wouldn't be able to pay you in US dollars, and then they would need to set up as a business in Mexico as well. There are implications if you were living in Texas or Colorado or wherever else. Like there's big implications for a business, because if they're paying for your healthcare, it's different if you're in Texas or if you're in Colorado. Your employment laws are different. So the protections that you have as an employee are different in California, significantly different than if you're in Texas. So I can't tell you what all of the legal implications are of working from Mexico, especially if you're going to be there full time. If you're going to be there for 2 weeks, then that's not really going to make any difference. You just go to Mexico, you do your work, you come home. Like, you probably shouldn't be doing it technically, but no one's going to have a problem with that. But yeah, if you're going to live in Mexico, there's going to be a lot of implications, and I really can't tell you exactly what all of them are.
Yeah, I understand some of them as well, and I was just trying to see if how feasible it is to, like, now with remote being a thing, how open it is, companies having U.S. employees in another country or something like that.
It's definitely it's definitely going to be feasible. You need to find an employer who is comfortable with whatever those implications are. If it's simple as paying you into a Texas bank account in US dollars and just assuming that you're working from Texas whilst you move back and forth, then that might be quite simple. But if they need to set up a business in whatever state it is in Mexico that you're going to be living in, then that might be a big leap.
Yeah, I'll dig some more into it. Thank you, Simon.
You're welcome. Yeah, so that's me done, I think. James, anything that you would like me to add?
No, I think you covered a lot of information. This was all really great. We'll definitely have the video. It's live streaming on YouTube right now, so you can definitely have that for your records if you need it, if you want to share that with anybody. I'm going to go ahead and touch base on a little bit of the other platforms, but this was wonderful. Thank you, Simon.
I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, it was great.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And sorry, just before I go, Jonathan, if you want to connect with me and anyone else as well, if I can help you guys find work, great. If I can help you with, like, look at your resume, or like point you towards some businesses you might want to approach, or just give you any kind of, like, answer any questions you've got, just reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. Just send me a message.
I do have one, if you don't mind me, just real quickly.
Of course.
How, as far as exposure goes, how effective would you think that it would be as far as, like, hackathons? Would you ever be a person to go host a hackathon, or even just be in the in the bleachers per se, and like virtual bleachers, I guess you could say, to hackathons just to see, potential prospects?
Obviously, it depends on the hackathon, or the scope and the size, and how relevant it is to what you do. But as a general rule, I would say that the more people you meet, the more you put yourself out there to talk to people, the more opportunities you'll have. So I'd say that they're a great idea.
Thank you for that.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. My next little part is definitely not as much, but we're going to talk a little bit about some different freelance platforms that are out there and available to people to use, and kind of like how to fill them out. I'm definitely not an expert at it. I do, so as a freelancer, I do use them from time to time. And it kind of just depends. Truth be told, though, I get most of my work, probably 95% of the work that I do, I pick that up from LinkedIn, from different recruiters that reach out to me and find me through my profile there. So I don't want to double down on definitely filling out your profile as best you can on LinkedIn. It's really important for looking for work and building your network. So that being said, there's some different platforms that are out there that you're able to utilize. The most famous one that people talk about is Upwork. Another one that people use is called Fiverr. Um, then there's other smaller ones that are not as large, but people still are able to find work on it. This one is called Embark.live. It's one that I use. Um, it just kind of depends what you're looking for and how you want to present yourself on all these different platforms. So things to think about while you're building your profile. Kind of similar to LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you use every part of your profile to showcase your skills. It's very important you fill all the information out. That way, when people are looking at your proposals or they're checking your profile out, they can say, oh, this is all the information about me, the candidate, applying for this position or that project, whatever that may be. If your profile has all the different pieces filled out, then you're definitely going to have a better opportunity at being something that's maybe related to maybe the hiring manager or just something that's going to appeal more. So it's definitely important to fill it out. And at the end of this, I'll go through and show you what my profile looks like. And y'all can kind of see what a filled out profile looks like on it. One of the questions that I asked her about earlier was a picture on your profile. Well, you want to think about that. People, since this is a completely remote opportunity most of the time, probably say like 95% of the time, people like to see a real person at the end of the day. So having a professional picture for your profile, I feel like it's really important. And, people may not want to hire someone that has sunglasses on or surfing or, playing with the dogs maybe. So someone that looks a little bit, a nice shirt, maybe like a nice haircut or whatever, something like that. Something that just looks nice, professional, will help you to stand out on your profile. One thing that's important to think about is showcasing your title and your overview section. So your title would be, for me, I'm a web developer, front-end web developer. So my title would be web developer. And then talking about my overview would be information about me, about my skill sets, what I'm looking for, what are the things that I'm good at. And then also there's a call to action where I want to reach out to someone. I want to talk to them. So, hey, let's connect. Let's talk in the community. Let's do this. Another thing that's important in a lot of these profile digital platforms now, it's something that I've kind of seen even trickle down to the smaller platforms, is having a introduction video. It doesn't have to be super high end at all by any means. It's part of that being real and that people want to know who you are kind of thing. So, hey, hi, I'm James Lockwood. I'm a front-end web developer. I work with JavaScript, React, WordPress. I'm great at doing this. I like analytics, et cetera, et cetera. All right, thanks. Looking forward to chatting with you. So nothing super fancy, just you can write down some bullet points, read them out as you talk through your video, but it's definitely worth filling out that piece of your profile, because that's another touch point for people to see you, and it will help you to seem like a more real person as well.
James, real quick, what's the E symbol?
It's embark.live. I can drop a link into the chat. The way that platform works is basically they have subject matter experts, and the subject matter experts will do talks. Like they'll put on a presentation kind of similar to like tonight, and you set up the presentations in a way that like startups or people with small businesses will come in and they'll watch your presentation, they'll ask questions, and then they set up typically like one-on-ones with you afterwards, and that's how you make sales. You set them up with either consulting time, or you can set them up to do a project with them. So let me get that link real quick. Chat. There you
Thank
go. Yeah. So this is when you're working on your profile, just like you do in LinkedIn as well, you want to make sure you highlight your best work in your profile. In Upwork, you have a section for your portfolio where you can say, this is a screenshot of the project that I worked on. This is the skills that I used while building it out. These are the X, Y, and Z. We use this, we use that. This is my role in that project, and this is our result. Here's a link to it if you want to come view it. It's all about being proud of what you've done and wanting to show that to the potential hiring manager, because it also shows that you have the skill to build out whatever it is you're applying for. So it's really important to fill that out. Another thing that's also great, if you have any certifications, like if you're AWS certified, if you are Microsoft Azure certified, if you're like ADA compliance certified, let's say you have a degree in computer science or whatever it may be, it's going to help you to stand out at the end of the day, and it's going to allow you to just to potentially be that person for people. Really, that's kind of your goal, is to highlight yourself to the best you can every time you possibly can on these platforms, because there's so many people out there looking to find work and also hire. So you want to definitely try to stand out in any possible ways that you can. Like other platforms, you want to make sure you include your employment history. I've worked at this company, I've worked at that company, and in each of these roles, I've done X, Y, and Z. I was the lead developer, or I was a teammate on the front end development team, or I worked with exclusively with the UX designer, and I built out the project all by myself. Whatever it may be, include all that information in there, so that way people can read it and they'll say, "Hey, well, we're looking for someone that can do this skill set. They've done this already. We know that they know that they can do the job. They might be the person for this opportunity that we're hiring for." You want to definitely include your educational background and any other experiences. Like there's a lot of people here in Austin. There's a lot of people in the tech world that have done boot camps. That is okay. That is definitely worth sharing that with the world. That was something you did. You took the time out of your own life to teach yourself a skill, or do a schooling of some sort, or whatever it may be, so that way you're able to get this skill set. You have a very important skill set that you can utilize to solve the solution or solve the problem. So it's definitely worth sharing that information, because it helps you stand out. It's always good. The goal is to stand out and to be that person that's going to solve the problem for them. And then lastly, this goes without saying, you want to make sure you review your profiles, make sure that everything across it matches. Sometimes different platforms charge you, so you have to make sure that when you set your hourly rate, you set it in a price point that you're not losing money at the end of the day when you're bidding on projects and things like that. So you want to think about that. Like I think Upwork charges like 15%, I think, or $15 or something per hour. So you want to make sure when you're setting your pay rate, that you're setting it in a way that it's going to cover your bills, because you have to take care of your own taxes, you have to take care of your own savings, all of that stuff. So that's one thing to think about. But also you want to check for like misspelled words. You want to make sure that your profile says it's 100% complete. Make sure that the images that you do take screenshots of, make sure that they're clear and they're not all pixelated. Check your links, things like that. It's definitely good to check on it and just make sure that it looks like it's presentable and like it does the job it needs to do. So I'm going to go ahead and share just my Upwork profile, just so you can kind of see what a filled out profile looks like. in the platform. So this is my personal profile. It says I'm a web developer, has my hourly rate. It has a short information about myself. I have my intro video, and I think it's like 30 seconds long. Just tells about me and who I am. In my portfolio section, I have 3 samples of websites that I've worked on. And I think if you click on them, it tells you like what they're built with, what the deliverables were, the business size, links to the website, and then just a product description. So it's all about making your account look presentable and look like something that people would like to work with. You also have a section for skills. So you talk about your different skills that you can do, things you've worked with. Super important. You have the educational section. And then if you nowadays everybody has different languages that they speak. I mean, we had them back then, but if you're able to speak more than one language, that's awesome, and that's something that's worth noting, because that's gonna be something that'll potentially help you to stand out versus somebody else that may not. The communications is so important. So if you're able to communicate better on the team, you're gonna go the distance. You're gonna be able to be a part of the team. Let's see. We can look at what it looks like to kind of look for work. So the way that this platform works is you basically have a feed, kind of like a social media feed, and you can kind of go through, pick and choose what you want to apply for. It has information about what they're wanting to pay, time estimation, time per week, gives you a brief description. One thing that's kind of nice to see, especially on platforms like this or other platforms where you're kind of working for a stranger. I mean, essentially that's kind of what it is. If making sure that people are verified, that they actually make their payments, so you're not doing this work, and that's part of Upwork's thing, I believe, is that they have some sort of, I think, like an escrow service where they pay into it and you get paid through them, I think. I've never really found anything great on Upwork, truth be told, but it's a platform that I've utilized and just tried to use myself. But it's an opportunity if you're able to kind of sit there and go through. People do make a lot of money using this platform. People start agencies using this platform, and they have to hire developers and a whole company to be able to get the work done. So I mean, it can be done. I've heard the Upwork stories kind of. That's kind of it on the Upwork side of things. And I don't think I have a Fiverr account, but it's kind of similar in the way that it's set up. You have a list of different projects or contracts that are available. You select through them. You do let's click on this one. So you can you submit a proposal. You can save the job. It'll tell you information about how many people have submitted proposals to it. And then also you have history of the clients and stuff. So I think Fiverr's really similar as far as how it's laid out. I don't know if anybody else has experience with Fiverr at all. I'd like to share maybe a little bit about it. But that's kind of Upwork in a nutshell, guys, folks. Are there any questions about third-party platforms and kind of how they work, or how to set up a profile or anything like that?
I was just curious, James. Do you withdraw money through your PayPal account after getting paid on Upwork, or how does that work?
I think it connects to your bank account, but it's a certified service, and it's either through your bank account or PayPal. but I know that the way that they set it up is they set it up in a way that everybody gets covered. That's why they always try to tell you to keep everything inside the platform, because then they can monitor everything that goes on, and it keeps everybody safe at the end of the day, so people don't get burned because it's happened.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, that's kind of it for the. I'm gonna stop the live stream.